Well, good morning, and what a morning has been. You've joined us mid-session on the Carp Society's Farriers Lake, a syndicate of mine, and I've been catching a few fish. So I've just got this beautiful fish in the net, just under 27 pound, and it would be nice to try and catch a couple more for the camera. So we're going to slip this back and we'll talk you through how the session's been panning out so far. So we've just slipped back the fish. It was just under 27 pound, lovely little comment. Oh, one's just boshed out too. So it's looking good for another bite. It's getting quite late on in the morning now. It's sort of 10 o'clock and sort of bite time's pretty much fizzling back out. I've just got the rods back out, put a few 5 or 6 spots over the top. So there is a chance I could nick another bite, but the time's probably not quite on my side this morning at the moment. But let's have a little bit of a sort of recap where we're at. So we're middle of August at the moment. We're on Farriers Lake on one of the Carp Society syndicates. The lake itself is pretty decent size, 20 plus acres, probably maybe near 30, 20 acres, something like that. But it's really, really shallow and weedy. So the average depths are about 3 to 4 foot. It's mega, mega weedy, top to bottom in a lot of areas, almost like a football pitch. But for me, that kind of makes the fishing easier because you can actually see where the clear spots are. You don't have to spend ages looking for spots because you can see the weed on the surface and then you can see where the holes are, so you know kind of where you want to fish. But obviously this year's been a bit of an odd one. We've had the virus knocking around, and we've had the lockdown period. The lake's been open sort of 3 months now, on and off. It actually closed a couple of times for a couple of weeks through spawning, just to give the fish a bit of a break, which is always nice. Got to look after the fish, big old carp, you know, they do need that break. But I've been struggling, if I'm totally honest. I have been struggling a bit. I've not done loads of time, but I've been mainly doing shorter sessions, overnighters in between work, or maybe a 24-hour session here and there. And I've done sort of 5 or 6 sort of overnighters without, I had one bite and lost one in a big weed bed. So I felt like I was struggling. It's not a massively difficult lake. I have caught consistently over the last couple of seasons that I've been on here, just doing shorter sessions, but this year it hasn't really been happening. I did have one trip a couple of weeks ago where I did get on the fish and they were really having it. You know, it was one of those trips where they were feeding well up for it and I was on them, and I did manage to have 6 fish. So that was a right result. But as I said, in between the other 5 or 6 overnighters or 24 hours, I've been really struggling. I've been on fish as well and just not getting bites. I'd had fish fizzing on spots over the bait, just not picking up bites. And I found it very frustrating. Like, I tend to find, I think carp fishing is fairly simple. If you get on them, give them something they want to eat, get the rig in the right spot, get them feeding, you're going to catch them. But it's been far from that on here for me. So I felt like I was struggling quite a bit, and I had to really sit down and try and analyse what I was doing and why that I wasn't getting the bites when I felt I should be. And one of the reasons, I think, is because I feel like I was putting in probably too much bait. So I like to bait fish. I do like to put quite a lot of bait in, fish one spot, 2 rods on it, and try and get them competing. But I think on the shorter sessions, although it's worked in the past, this year it just hasn't worked for me. And the fishing has been harder on here this year. It hasn't fished as well as what it normally does. But other people are catching a few fish, and I felt that I wasn't as consistent as other people, and perhaps I should be. So when I was analysing it, I thought perhaps I'm fishing too much bait. And my kind of theory on that is, I like to, when I'm trying to get them competing for food, I like to have quite a condensed bed of bait on the bottom. So that's why I like to put quite a lot of bait out, so there's a lot quite tight on the bottom to try and get them in and competing and feeding right near the hook baits. So when I'm fishing places like Bluebell, it's quite deep, it's 14 foot, and the bait spreads quite a lot through the water. So I feel like I've got to put quite a bit in to get a nice concentrated bed of bait on the bottom, because it spreads out so much. You almost need to put twice as much in to get it concentrated on the bottom. Whereas here, where it's only 3 or 4 foot, I think the bait is going straight down. So where I'm putting in what I'd put in on Bluebell, it's probably twice as much as what I need to put in to get the same effect, if you kind of see where I'm going. So this trip, I actually got down Saturday night after work, so I got down about 6 o'clock Saturday, and it was very, very, very busy. There weren't too many options, but there was a few fish in short, sort of a couple of swims up round to my left. So it's not really a swim that gets fished much, but there was a few fish there. So I dropped in there for the night. So I put out probably quarter of the amount of bait that I normally put out, and put it on a nice little clear spot. Again, it's very weedy, and I could see like a perfect circle in the weed. So I dropped a rig in that, put quarter of much bait is what I normally put in there, and I had a bite in the morning. So straight away, I've had a 32 pounder from a sort of unfancied swim, and perhaps if I'd fished it the way I had been fishing, by putting like a bucket of bait out, I might not have got that bite, and I really do think that I probably wouldn't have got that bite. So I'm off the mark already. Sunday morning, everyone on the lake packed up and went home except for one person, so I had the choice of any swim, and I actually sort of spent a couple of hours stalking. I put a little bit of bait down in one of the bays in the margin, and I had a few fish coming in and feeding, and I kind of left it for a few hours, watched them feeding, and by sort of 11-12 midday they were proper troughing. There was 3 fish in there troughing, so I waited for my opportunity. I'm not the best of margin anglers. I don't catch many out the edge. I normally get them feeding and then completely ruin my chances. I managed to get a rig in, fish disappeared as per usual, and I thought that was it. That's just my margin fishing. They won't come back. But 20 minutes later they did come back. They dropped down. It's tanked off. I'd had a lovely sort of 27-pound zip linear. Now, anyone who knows Farriers, there's loads and loads of commons. Like the majority of the lake is commons. There's not many mirrors in there at all. So to catch a nice sort of upper 20, perfect zip linear, real nice dark scaly fish, it was just awesome, to be honest. And to catch it down the edge, it was my first margin caught fish out of here as well, so that was the right result. The fish in that margin, they disappeared then, so I packed up and I've moved into one of the point swims. Basically gives me quite a lot of access to quite a lot of water. There was a lot of fish cruising about yesterday, so chose me spot. I normally fish 2 spots and put loads of bait in to try and get it competing, as I've been saying, but this time I decided to fish 2 different spots and put like just a few spods on each. And in the night I've had a bite at midnight, I think it was a mid-30, 35-pound common on my longer spot. Then I've had another bite at 6 o'clock this morning. It was probably about 24 pound. I didn't weigh it. Slipped that one back, and that was on the longer spot again. And then I've had a third bite at just before 8 o'clock this morning, and that was just under 27 pound. And go on, that's a bite. One thing I always do when I'm playing a fish, just clip up when the line marker's in the right place and just walk back. So that I got that from my match fishing days, so when I'm speed fishing, is something I've adopted throughout all my fishing, whether I'm big fish fishing or what. So I know as soon as I get this fish in, I can do the photographs and I'm already clipped up. I can just ping it straight back out on the spot. Weed is absolutely brutal. He has just found something a bit savage. Just going to load the pressure up a bit, really gently, just increase the pressure and just hope that he's going to pop out the weed. I think I have got the weed bed moving a little bit, but just got to keep the pressure on and keep trying to get him moving. Here he comes. I hate playing fishing weed. It's never just a simple case of sort of leading them into the bank. It's always drama. You just got to be on the ball with it, keep the pressure on, and just keep them moving where possible. Oh man, I don't believe that. I had that fish on for about an hour. It was absolutely brutal. it was definitely on there. It kept getting out the weed or getting through the weed and coming back in, and it was to and fro all the time. And unfortunately, the carp got the better of me this time, and the hook slipped, and I got the rig back. So at least the fish is untethered and safe, but a bit gutted to have lost that one. Well, that's the ups and downs of carp fishing. I've had a lovely 27 pounder at 8 o'clock this morning, and at 10 o'clock I've had another bite, and unfortunately lost it in the weed. But I've had a bit of a sulk. I've got over it. I've got the rods back out, got a little bit more bait in. I think it's well past bite time. You never know because it's shallow, so you could get an afternoon bite, but the chances are pretty slim, to be honest. But I've been baiting a little margin spot just down here, and I actually got a few fish feeding on it yesterday and dropped in on it and had the zip linear pretty quickly. And that was a hell of a fish, and I don't catch many at the margin, so that was a nice one for me. But I've been trickling bait in all morning. I've seen one carp sort of coming in a few times, but I haven't actually seen him feeding. There is a few bubbles coming up down there, but I've got a good feeling that that's tench. But I'm just going to keep trickling the bait and keep an eye on it, and if I see any carp come in, I'll be winding the rods in and dropping one down the edge in this little corner. Absolutely roasting hot today, so I've just parked myself in the shade so that we can have a little closer look at the bait. Nothing special for me, just my usual mixed, sort of very standardised mix. Lots of hemp in there, corn and live system boilies. So I normally use a 10 millers most places I go, but lately I've been getting hammered by tench on here, so I've just upped the boilie size to a 15 mil, and that just seems to have done the trick to keep the tench away a bit more. Rig wise, using the Ronnie rig, ever faithful, been using it for quite a few years now, very rarely chuck anything else out there. The mechanics of it, it just works. But again, for the same reasons as I've put bigger boilies in the mix, I've gone up to a 15 mil pop-up. Again, I normally use a 12 miller, but in recent trips I've been having like 2 or 3 tench a night, and it's been doing my absolute head in. So I've gone up to a 15 mil pop-up, and that seems to have done the trick. I've not had any tench at all problems. It has been so hot. Normally I have a little bit of putty around here, but it's been so hot the putty's actually been melting, and my putty's gone so soft it won't survive the cast. So I've had to incorporate a little shot just below it, just to sink it down and balance the hook bait nicely. Well, we're just coming into the evening now, and getting the rods rigged up. Going to get fresh baits on, get a fresh bit of bait out there ready for the night, trap set. Hopefully, be nice to think, after having a few bites last night and this morning, that hopefully we can get another bite or two tonight and in the morning. There's definitely a few fish about. It's been a quiet afternoon. There's been quite a lot of fish about, but it's been scorching hot. One of the hottest days of the year so far. Been about 32 degrees. So I've spent most of the day just trying to hide in the shade and sort of sweating in a little ball in the corner. So it's been a hot one. There's a few fish about, and we'll see what the night brings. Well, we've had a proper eventful night last night. Got the rods out just before dark, put a fresh bit of top up the bait in, 2 rods on the spot, and it's about 10:30, just watching a bit of football, and 10:30 is tanked off, and it's quite a decent battle, to be fair. I felt like it was going to be a good fish. It was wallowing around, just felt heavy, into a few weed beds, but I managed to keep it coming. Up it popped and into the net, and the length of it, I just knew it was going to be decent. So got myself one that just over £37, 37.4, and it was an immaculate fish. Now there's quite a lot of deep-bodied fish in Farriers, but this one was a real long, immaculate fish. So I think that is the biggest carp I've had out of this lake this year. So that was a right result. So we've done a couple of snaps of that one in the dark, slipped it back, and flicked the rod back out. I didn't top up after that one, and had another bite a couple of hours later, just after midnight. And again, that one was scrapping quite well, and another 30-pounder. That one was just over 31 pounds. So a couple of fish in the night. I didn't top up after that one either, just flicked the rig out. Nothing happened the rest of the night, so I got up early, 4:30, just put a few more spods out, redone the rods, got the trap set, and it's looking good. There's a few fish around. It's sort of coming up to 7:30 in the morning, around about the time I started getting bites yesterday morning. So we'll see. Just hopefully one will peel off and we can get another one. Got another fish on, and it's weeded me in exactly the same place as I lost the fish yesterday. Good timing. 8 o'clock in the morning, I just finished my last mouthful of breakfast. It was a hell of a bite as well. The bobbin just pulled up. I fished quite a tight clutch with the weed, but it just started ticking away. And we got another Farriers common on. It's got some serious power, this fish. There we go, boy. Get yourself in that net. That's how it's done. Weed and all. Nice. Well, there we have it. Bite time's rocked up, 8 o'clock, same time as yesterday morning, and it's tanked off with this beauty. One of the smaller ones of the trip, but I'm not going to complain at that because it's perfection in miniature. Sort of mid-20 sort of size, and I'll take that any day. Wow, the weather is absolutely sweltering. I've not got a lot of shade in this swim. Bite time's sort of fizzling out now. I think it's nearly done. So I'm going to have a slow pack down over the next hour. I've had a great trip at the end of the day. I've ended up with 8 fish. Unfortunately, I did manage to lose one, but you're always going to have the odd casualty in the weed. But I've had them up to £37 this trip in 4:30, so I couldn't have asked for more than that. So that's a right result. But I'm going to have a slow pack down, get myself home and have a nice cold shower, I think. It's been hard earned.